Hey friends, Barky Dog here, back with another movie review. This time we're looking at a sci-fi movie that's a little light on the sci-fi. That is, there's definitely a sci-fi element, but the picture is really more of an exercise in the potential philosophical ramifications of the actions the characters take. That's right, we're looking at the cult classic, The Final Countdown, starring Kirk Douglas, Martin Sheen, and the aircraft carrier Nimitz. Not necessarily in that order. Our story starts one fine day at sea when Martin Sheen arrives on board the Nimitz during a naval exercise. He's an efficiency expert who works for a mysterious millionaire he's never actually met. This guy designed a bunch of the equipment used on the ship, which is why Sheen is spending time on board, to observe the crew's efficiency and offer recommendations. Not long after, things kinda go to crap as a perfectly fine day turns dark and stormy. And man, what a storm! The ship passes through what is essentially a blue hole, although they never refer to it that way. And the Nimitz travels back in time to December 6th, 1941. From there, the captain and crew need to figure out what happened and if the time travel was real or some kind of Russian sneak attack weapon or maybe a government psyops project to test crew reactions. Eventually, the evidence builds up and they have to face the fact that the Nimitz has indeed traveled back in time to a point just before the day that lives in infamy. So now they're faced with a thorny philosophical problem. Do they prevent the attack on Pearl Harbor using the modern technology and weapons the Nimitz has? Or do they sit by and let history unfold as it should? Fate takes a hand when the crew is forced to shoot down two Japanese Zeros attacking a civilian yacht, and they rescue the survivors, who turn out to be a powerful conservative senator, his attractive personal assistant, and her dog. Always save the dog. I'm just saying. It's a good move. Trust me. This senator is a war hawk and could possibly become the vice president in the next election instead of Truman, which could lead to all kinds of problems. One of the officers on board is also a hobbyist historian, and he falls for the attractive assistant. Can't blame him there. Plus, she owns a friendly dog, so you know she's a good person. I say go for it, man. They also rescue and interrogate one of the Japanese pilots. He doesn't care for that, as you'll see when you watch the movie. Ultimately, the captain chooses to defend Pearl Harbor and wipe out the Japanese forces over the objections of the historian, and I think it's the wrong decision, personally. After all, by interfering, they run the risk of wiping out not only the future events that led to the creation of the Nimitz and her technology, but also their own very existence, a la Marty McFly in Back to the Future. On the other hand, the officers and crew have sworn an oath to protect America against all enemies, foreign or domestic, and the attack on Pearl Harbor certainly qualifies as a threat. Plus, they don't know how they traveled through time, and they have no expectation the same thing will happen again, or if they can even return to 1980. As for Sheen, will you look at that hair? He must have been standing on the flight deck behind a jet when it took off. I mean, just look at that. Besides Martin Sheen, the captain of the Nimitz is played by the mighty Kirk Douglas, and the flight officer and part-time historian is played by James Farentino, who, you may remember, also starred in the short-lived Blue Thunder television series. The bossy, bombastic senator is played by Charles Durning, and his personal assistant is played by Katherine Ross. Michael Douglas was almost cast in the Martin Sheen role, but he was tied up working on the China Syndrome, so he didn't get to appear with his father here. The movie makes a good use of its setting, the aircraft carrier Nimitz. It's almost a procedural in a way, as we get to see flight operations and the equipment used aboard a carrier in action. We also get a bit of a tour of the less sensitive areas of the Nimitz and a sense of what the various duties and roles are aboard the ship, and what life is generally like serving on a carrier. The movie is, of course, very pro-Navy. In fact, the Navy used the movie as part of a recruiting drive, even having posters from the film in recruiting offices, not unlike what the Air Force did when Top Gun came out. The theme music to this film is one of its biggest selling points, and very memorable. It's the final countdown! Do-do-do-do! Do-do-do-do-do! Do-do-do-do! Do-do-do-do-do-do! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do! No, not that one! That was made several years after this movie, although the rock band Europe did admit that the title of their song was inspired by this picture. No, I'm talking about the theme written by John Scott. It's one of those big, rousing, bombastic, soaring anthems that's also kind of an earworm. It adds a lot to the picture, making it feel bigger than it already is. The whole piece is placed over the end credits, and it's still the theme music for the ship itself in real life, played during certain operations. It's the kind of scoring you wish was still being made today. Here's a fun fact. When the two jets take on the two Zeros attacking the yacht, the planes had to be at full throttle while the jets were at stall speed. It's the only way both could be in the same shot with the Zero ahead of the jet. No surprise, the planes are no contest for the jets, although fair point, in 1952, it was a Chance Vought F-4U Corsair fighter that brought down an enemy jet in a dogfight over Korea. Marine Captain Jesse J. Fulmer blasted a MiG out of the sky before getting shot down himself, but he bailed out in time and was rescued. At low speed, the prop plane was more maneuverable, so it seems the Zeros could have been too. To be fair, they never saw jets before. The weird storm effect, the blue hole, was created by Maurice Binder. Yes, that Maurice Binder. Downsides here? Well, some of the ship's crew were cast not just as extras, but some have actual speaking parts, and they were not actors. It's a little painful and obvious who's an actor and who isn't. Some of their lines are delivered in the stiff and unnatural way non-actors do when they try to act. so they're not exactly convincing. Fortunately, this is kept to a minimum. And again, I think the captain makes the wrong call to attack the Japanese force. As an officer at the level he holds, he probably went to Annapolis, and like graduates of West Point, these guys don't just study tactics, they're also schooled in history and even philosophy, among many other things. He probably ought to know better than to put his thumb on the scale of recorded history. If the Nimitz is somehow meant to interfere and change things, well, that angle isn't really discussed in the movie. I'm giving this one 2.5 paws. In the final analysis, the movie is a little dopey, maybe, and uses a lot of time showing off the Nimitz instead of wrestling with the philosophical dilemma of altering history. But I've always loved the final countdown anyway. There's a lot to like here, the least of which is the clever ending. The Final Countdown is available on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and digitally from Amazon Prime. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. I'll be back soon with another video. In the meantime, you take care of yourselves, okay? And I'll see you in the next one.